For a long time, I focused entirely on the writing itself because that's what authors and craft book tells you to do. I followed the advice that if I got my characters right, my sentences, my voice, everything else will fall into place. So I poured all my energy on getting better at writing, but I was making a big mistake. I was ignoring the habits and mindset that actually makes writing possible. Those things that determines whether I stick with that writing or not. Hi friends, my name is Mohammed, and in this channel we explore tools and habits that help us fit writing and reading to our life so that we can tell our story, stay creative, inspired, and clear-headed. And in this video, I want to share 7 mistakes that writers make that go beyond the writing itself, and if you fix them, it will transform your writing process. Mistake number 1 is waiting for inspiration in order for you to write. This is something that a lot of aspiring writers struggle with. I definitely struggled with it, and I used to think I only can write when I feel like there is a great idea working in my mind. Even if I was working on a story and I'm somewhere in the middle and I don't know what the next steps are, I will wait until I have an epiphany in order for me to write the next, part of the story. But waiting for inspiration to happen is like a farmer waiting for rain in order for it to water their crops. It is not sustainable. It doesn't come with a predictable way in order for you to assess the outcome. It doesn't come enough for the plants in order for the story to live longer in your head, to be clearer. And the more you wait between writing sessions, more fuzzy and confusing and the more forgetful you become of the story itself. And the more you link those writing days together, the clearer the story stays, the more or the deeper relationship you will develop with the characters, and the more you will understand where the story wants to go. Because while part of writing is conscious, we know what we want to write about, we know the story, the politics, the steps, a lot of it is very geared in discovery. It's very rooted in the subconscious or the unconscious. While you are writing, you are also discovering the story itself. You are getting to know where the characters are heading. Sometimes you are writing a dialogue and then a character says something that defines that character's personality, defines their position on a particular subject that the story is tackling. So the more you show up, in a sense, the more inspired you will feel, because you are giving yourself, you are giving the story more opportunity to be discovered. So the general advice is write every single day. And I want to recognize here that sometimes that's not possible. If you are a parent, if you work full-time, if you go to school and work, we all know that writing every day is just sometimes not possible. I had this period of time where I just became a new parent and I was very busy with school, work, and becoming, showing up for my new child. And I didn't write for a very long time. And I felt that time, maybe writing wasn't my thing because I can't commit to it every day. I should just step away from it. But then I realized that you just have to be kind to yourself during times of busyness or during stressful times. And yes, maybe you can fit 30 minutes, 45 minutes here or there during your day, but if you can't, tomorrow is another day for you to try. And it's just a matter of linking as many attempts as possible for you to just sit down, and even if you don't have anything to write about, just sit down and try to write. And whether you type words or not, you are committed to the activity or the time session that you have allotted for yourself that works around your schedule, and the result, you let it be to the story itself or to the time itself or how inspired and energetic you feel that day. So take it one day at a time. Chuck Close, the American painter and visual artist, says inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and do the work. The second mistake is obsessing over a perfect first draft. It took me a very long time to get over the perfection of a first draft. I used to think that once I start writing, that's the draft that I'm gonna end up with sending to publication. So what I would do every day, I would write, and then the next day I would wake up and edit the first version of, or the stuff that I wrote the previous day before I start writing again. Now, sometimes that's helpful because you want to, the idea of the story to stay fresh, where to pick up from what line, and there is an advantage to it. But when you have, say, 20 pages and you only have an hour or 45 minutes a day for you to write because you have a lot of other things going on, reading 20 pages every single day and editing them and then writing some more, it's not sustainable. You will feel exhausted and you will end up writing one line a day. And often first drafts are very confusing. You don't know what the story is going to be. You might have a scene where the story started, maybe a voice of a character, maybe something or an incident that happened to you that you want to make a story out of it, and you don't necessarily know where you're heading or how you even started. Sometimes you forget. So then the first draft becomes the discovery stage of the writing process. This is the draft that you write as fast as possible, as soon as possible, and without looking back. At this stage, I don't care if I misspell words, I don't care if my sentences are grammatically correct, if my dialogue sounds real, if my characters are believable. I just write the first draft as fast as possible so that I can use those good pieces of whatever I wrote as an anchor or as a platform for me to jump into the second draft, which is something that's more solid. And the more drafts I write or rewrite or edit, the clearer the story becomes and the more filtration I will go through before I get to the final draft. And during this process, I'm making a lot of decisions about turns I'm making, about characters I want to eliminate, about voices I want to include, about where I want the character to make what decisions. Even the personality comes out more. This is also the stage where your style, your voice, the uniqueness of what you bring to the table comes out. Mistake number 3 is comparing yourself to others. I don't think I have to say much about why comparing yourself to others is a bad idea. I mean, it's evil. We know is the killer of all joy. We know we shouldn't do it, but it's also human, and you have to recognize that it will happen. You are bound, especially with the age that we live in of social media and people showing on their screen or on their profile the best version of themselves, their relationships, their artwork, their accomplishments, where they are heading, and the best corner pixel of their life. But in reality, we are all full of complicated lifestyles, complicated life situations and relationships and advancements and writing and everything else. And that does not get showcased on social media. And I still feel this sometimes, whether it's about YouTube, when it's someone that started the same time that I started but they grown faster, or someone that I know that maybe didn't get a writing degree like I did, but they are publishing a lot more than I am. And so I feel some type of way about it when I see them do their thing, because this is the stage or this is the spot. This is what I'm shooting for, what I've worked hard for, but it's not happening to me in the same rate that's happening to them. But then in reality, we are all in different journeys. We are all have different advantages and disadvantages that other people don't have. And most importantly, we have stories that other people cannot tell. Sometimes I will read book and I will think to myself, why haven't I wrote a book like this? This is the type of writing I want to get to, I want to write about. But then it's impossible for me to write in other people's voices about other people's passions, as it is impossible for them to write the stories that I experience, live, and think about. So lean on what makes you unique, what makes your life situation different, the unfair advantages that you have, as opposed to wishing that you have other people's things. And one quick way to treat this, and this is what works for me, I'm not sure how other people deal with it. I would love to know how you deal with it, so let me know in the comments. I journal about it. So whenever I feel like, I'm missing out, or I want this particular thing, or my life is not going as well as I have wanted it to be, I will literally sit down with a paper and pen and just list the things that I'm grateful for, list the things that I have that I'm taking for granted. And often enough, I will reach this realization, and it doesn't fail. I am now living through the things that I wished for a few years ago, and I am now living someone else's dream. So don't take the things that you have or experiencing or accomplished for granted. We've come very far, and we hopefully will go even further as long as we stay consistent with our own craft, with our own passions, and we do not lose sight of the end goal, which is contentment, or it's beyond gaining material things, because whether it's views or publications or awards, those things will not ultimately make us feel perfect or will make us feel like we arrived. There is no arrival. Life is just a journey, and we begin it somewhere, we end it somewhere, and then there is death, and then after death there is afterlife, if you believe in an afterlife. But once you're dead, there is nothing that you have gained from here that will make it to your grave. So what we leave behind is the people that we impacted, the help that we have offered other people, the love that we've spreaded in the world, and the rest of it, everybody will forget. And this is actually getting much deeper than I thought it will go. Mistake number 4 is ignoring other people's feedback or taking it too personal. And you might be the sort of person that would say, oh, but if people criticize my writing or give me feedback, I would not take it personal. Oh, trust me, you will. I remember my first workshop session where people read my story, then gave me feedback on it. It was during my MFA program. I had not taken any workshops before. I was not familiar with the process. So what the process was, I submitted my story, and I remember I was one of the first people that volunteered to submit their story for feedback during the program. And so sent it. A week later, we met again, and this is the session where people gave me or criticized my writing. And it was brutal, and it didn't feel good. For a few days, I had to get over it, because this was a story that I worked on for like a year and a half, and here were people saying how much it didn't work. I mean, there was a few people that liked it, and I think generally speaking, people liked it, but then there was a lot of holes in the story. It was too long, it lost focus in a lot of places. It did not follow a singular idea from start to finish. It was introducing a lot of tangents, and it was just not working, although there was a lot of material in it that was valuable. And as bad as it seemed at the time during workshop, and after long therapy sessions with my wife about my experience, the story became better. I mean, that story literally transformed the way I wrote, because I discovered during that process that it was okay for me to see a story that I loved but was not working, to start it from scratch, to just dismiss the whole draft or everything that I wrote before and write a very new thing. And what ends up happening is that you rewrite a lot of the good parts that were working in the story, but you make decisions on what you filter out, like I said earlier. And the more you attend workshops and the more you allow other people to give you feedback on your work, the more calloused or the more brave you become, or the less serious you become about your writing, and the more you approach it about, all right, these people are trying to make it better, and I will take what I think will make it better, and I will just leave away the things that didn't make sense to me. And there is a lot of that. You just become very good at taking advice, very good at taking or seeing what's working for the story or not, and less about, oh, what this person is trying to say about my writing and my person and me as a writer. Mistake number 5 is focusing only on the writing and ignoring reading. Reading to writing is like exercising or practicing for performing in any sport you can imagine. It's the workout, it's the preparation, it's the drills. That's what reading can seem like for writers. The more you read, whether you're conscious about it or not, but the more you will understand how writing works in terms of cadence, voice, structure, and the more you will understand, the more you will know how other people approach writing or subjects that you are passionate about. So in the beginning, it is very helpful to read widely. Do not limit yourself based on the genre that you are passionate about, whether it's like science fiction or fantasy or whatever the case might be. Don't limit yourself to that specific genre or specific type of books, but read as wide as possible. I mean, do read interesting things, books that they feel like it is something that you would love to know more about, you think that you will enjoy the story itself. Read those. Don't just read anything and everything, but take wild shots at whatever you are reading. Do not limit yourself to stuff that you know, or authors from your own particular background, or think about topics that you only care about, because it will help you create in your mind a library of books that you can reference later based on what you are writing at the time. And you do not know what type of writer, especially in the beginning, you will become. I remember a writing teacher of mine used to say, schedule a writing session for you to write every single day. And if you can't write that day for some reason, you show up and there are no words coming out, you are just staring at the screen and there's nothing that comes out, at the very least, for that 45 minutes, for that hour and a half, just read. Because reading will inform your writing later on, whether for that particular story or for stories that you will write in the future. Mistake number 6 is giving up too early. And this has two sides. One is giving up on your actual writing too early. So giving up on becoming a writer just because you are not publishing, just because you are not reaching the goals that you set for yourself or meeting the expectations that you give yourself. That is a bigger mistake. There was a craft teacher during my MFA program that used to say the only thing that you are not allowed to do after you graduate your MFA program, because we would ask what we should do next. Is it fellowships? Is it more workshops? Is it another degree? She would say, do not give up on your writing. Becoming a writer is a lifelong journey. Some of us publish by their 30s. Some of us take it until they become 40s. Some of us in their 50s. Some of us will publish only one book in their lifetime, and maybe some of us will not publish ever. but at the very least, we have a craft that we have decided it is part of our life that will help us understand the world, gives us an outlet for us to tell the stories that live inside our head screaming to be given life to, and this is what we do. I've been playing soccer or football for a very long time, since I was a child, and when I was a kid, I wanted to be a soccer player, a professional soccer player, but then I realized I didn't have it in me. Life happened, and it wasn't like a real passion, it was just like a thing that I wanted to do. And then now, I never think, oh, if I would only play soccer if I become a professional soccer player, or if I play in a, competitive league or team. I just go every Sunday or every Saturday to an open park and pick up games with my friends. And that's it. And the joy from it is actually doing it with others and just enjoying the game itself. Some weeks my team wins and some weeks my team loses, and it doesn't matter. It's just about the game. And writing can be just that, just write. And if the reward is money, fame, and everything else that we expect writing to bring for us, then be it. If not, then at the very, very least, we have the writing itself. The other side of this is to understand when to give up on a story. Do we stick on a story that doesn't work for our whole lifetime, or do we move on to another project after, maybe 6, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever the number is? And the answer is, I don't know. It's more of an intuition thing. For me is, I will write a story. Even if I'm bored with it, I will continue to work on it. But if I don't see it come to life after working on it for 3, 4 months, then I will just give it a break, and returning to it will be dictated based on how much I think about it while I am working on something else. So recently I was working on a novel, and it was my first attempt, and I gave it a few shots, I gave it a few months, and I was working on it, researching, doing the thing, and I just couldn't pick it up. It just couldn't pick up speed. So I decided I was going to move on to another project, and I was reading a book, and I thought about, oh, this idea can be a short story for something that I experienced back in Yemen at this time. And so I started working on that idea, a short story of someone who travels back to Yemen after a very, very long absence of being in America. And so I thought, this is a story that I can write. So I started writing it. It was super exciting. I wrote the first draft in maybe 2 weeks, and now I'm on my second draft. And so now I'm working on this project. The previous project is on pause, but I know, and I still feel like I will return to it one day. Maybe it's after this very particular project, maybe not, but at the very least, I'm trusting my intuition on when to press on a project and when to move on. You might have watched and listened to all these mistakes and identified with a few, and you feel like maybe I should tackle every single one of them head on immediately. And I think it's helpful for you to just take one at a time. Take writing more easily and be kind to yourself. That's it for this video, and if you watched this far, then I will encourage you signing up to my newsletter, which I send weekly, and I talk about writing reflections and life reflections, books that I'm reading, and things that I'm coming across the internet that sort of inspire me. Sign up on the link below, and I would highly encourage you watching my video on one book that has made the most amount of difference in my sort of writing. It improved my writing dramatically. It helped me understand the story and what it feels like and how to write one. And it's from the great George Saunders. You can watch it here. And in the meantime, keep writing.